Am I the a-hole for wanting to give up my son after discovering he isn't mine? I, 32 male, feel like my entire world is unraveling. Just over a month ago, I lost my wife, Emma. She passed away unexpectedly from peripartum cardiomyopathy, a rare and brutal heart condition that can strike women in the months after giving birth. The diagnosis came late. One day, she was a glowing new mom cuddling our newborn son. The next, she was complaining of fatigue and shortness of breath. A week later, I was holding her hand in a cold hospital room as machines screamed around us. Despite the doctor's efforts, they couldn't save her. She died 7 months after giving birth to who I thought was our son, Benjamin. The grief has been indescribable. Losing her felt like having the air sucked out of the room and never getting it back. The house is filled with her ghost. Her handwriting on sticky notes, her slippers by the bed, half-finished photo albums of the baby we were just starting to raise together. I've been sleepwalking through the days, struggling to keep it together for Benjamin, who cries often and looks up at me with wide, searching eyes. He has her dimples, her soft, curly hair. I clung to those features. I needed to believe she lived on in him. Then, 3 weeks ago, everything changed again. Her best friend Claire came by to drop off some old maternity clothes she'd been holding on to, things Emma had lent her when she was pregnant with her own daughter. Claire looked different that day, agitated, like she had something heavy on her chest. After a few minutes of awkward small talk and avoiding eye contact, she sat me down and said she had something important to tell me. Something Emma had confided in her months before the baby was born. She told me that Emma had cheated. That around the time Benjamin was conceived, Emma had a brief affair. She didn't go into details, but said it was a moment of weakness, something Emma deeply regretted and swore would never happen again. Claire claimed that Emma had been tormented with guilt, but didn't want to destroy our marriage or put the baby at risk of losing a stable family. I couldn't breathe. I asked Claire to leave. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, I just sat there, numb, and watched her walk out the door. I didn't want to believe it. Not after everything. Not after I'd just buried my wife. I thought Claire was just stirring things up. Maybe she resented Emma. Maybe she was lying. Maybe she was grieving in a twisted, toxic way. I tried to shove the thought from my mind, but I couldn't. The seed had been planted. It grew. I started to notice little things. Benjamin's eyes weren't the same color as mine or Emma's. His skin tone was just slightly off from either of us. I told myself I was imagining it, but the thought gnawed at me like rot. I stopped sleeping. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if my whole life had been a lie. After a week of this mental torment, I did what I swore I'd never do. I bought a DNA test. I cried while doing it. It felt like betrayal, like I was spitting on her memory. But I needed to know. I needed the truth. Closure. The results came back yesterday. I'm not the father, not even close. I stared at the report for hours. I must have read it 10 times, hoping I misread something. But no. Science doesn't lie. Benjamin isn't mine. I can't describe the storm of emotions inside me right now. Rage, grief, confusion, shame. I wanted to believe that Benjamin was a piece of Emma and me together, a symbol of our love. Now I don't know what he is. I look at him and feel hollow. I want to love him, but every time I hold him, a voice in my head screams, "He's not yours, she lied." I don't want to be cruel. I'm not heartless. Benjamin is just a baby. He didn't ask for any of this. But I'm broken. Completely. I'm a widower raising another man's child, a child born from a betrayal I never saw coming. I keep wondering who the real father is. Was it a fling? Someone she knew from work? Did she see him often? Was I just the backup plan? I feel like a stranger in my own life. Now I'm at a crossroads. I don't know if I can do this. Raise a child who is a constant reminder of my wife's infidelity. I feel ashamed even writing those words. I know how cruel they sound, but I'm trying to be honest with myself. I don't know if I can give him the love, care, and future he deserves. I'm barely functioning. I'm not even sure I can survive this emotionally, let alone raise a child through it. So yes, I've thought about giving him up. I've thought about informing both families and seeing if someone else is better equipped to raise him. I don't want to abandon him. I'm not throwing him out in the cold, but I feel like I'm failing him already by not being able to love him fully. Wouldn't it be worse to pretend? To raise him while resenting him in silence? Am I the a-hole? Edit. A lot of you are saying I should reach out to Claire again. I did. I called and apologized for how I reacted before. I asked her why she waited until Emma was gone to tell me. Her voice cracked. She said her loyalty was with Emma and she couldn't betray her trust while she was alive. She said she thought I deserved to know the truth, but she didn't know how to say it without sounding like she was attacking a grieving man. I asked her about the affair. She said it was a one-time thing. Emma told her it happened during work hours, some random encounter. Claire didn't know who the guy was. Apparently, Emma never gave details. Claire said she always suspected it was someone Emma met through a client or possibly at a conference. My wife worked in real estate and was often showing houses alone or meeting contractors and clients during the day. That made my stomach turn. Some of you said I should look through her phone or social accounts, but I never had her passwords. We trusted each other. There was no reason to snoop. I feel so stupid for not being suspicious. My next step is to inform our families, both hers and mine. I don't know how they'll take it. They all adore Benjamin, and I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but I can't keep living like this. I'm also going to see if there's any legal or ethical path toward adoption or guardianship transfer, should it come to that. To clarify, I don't hate Benjamin. He's just a baby. He didn't ask for this. I feed him, I hold him, I change him. I haven't abandoned him, and I won't do anything rash or reckless. But I need to be honest. I don't know if I'm the right person to raise him long term. I wish things were different. I wish I never found out. I wish Emma had been honest. But now all I have are pieces. And I'm just trying to figure out how to pick them up. Please don't be too harsh. Just try to imagine standing in my shoes. Update. Thank you to everyone who reached out. Whether it was with support, tough love, legal advice, or just empathy. I didn't get a chance to respond to every message, but I want you to know that I've read them all. Even the ones that were critical made me reflect on things from angles I hadn't considered. After finding out the devastating truth that the son I've been raising for 7 months isn't biologically mine, I knew I couldn't keep this information to myself. I needed to be honest with both my own family and my in-laws, no matter how difficult the conversations might be. I didn't want to make any big decisions in isolation. This situation is too complicated, too emotional, and too important for that. I started with my parents and younger brother. Sitting at the kitchen table with the DNA results in front of me felt surreal. I explained everything. How my wife's best friend came forward, the doubts that started growing, and how I eventually gave in and ordered the test. There was a long silence. My mother cried. My father looked like he was trying to stay calm for all of us, but his hands were shaking. My brother didn't say anything for a few minutes and then quietly said, "Whatever you decide, we'll support you." They were shocked, angry, not at the baby, but at the situation and at the fact that I was going through this just weeks after losing my wife. But above all, they stood by me. They didn't pressure me to make any one decision. They just wanted me to know I wasn't alone. Telling my in-laws was even harder. I called my wife's parents and asked if we could meet in person. When I told them the truth, they were stunned. Her father went pale and her mother kept repeating, "That can't be true. She would have told us." I showed them the test results, but I could tell they were still in denial. Eventually, her mother said she would only believe it if we did another test, with both families present for full transparency. I agreed immediately. I had nothing to hide. What happened next really surprised me. My wife's sister, who has a 4-year-old daughter, quietly asked if I'd considered letting someone from the family adopt the baby. She said that if the second test confirmed the child wasn't mine, she'd be willing to raise him. She told me she didn't want him going into the foster system, and that she and her husband had already talked about it after hearing the news. That was the first time I cried in front of them. I hadn't realized how much fear I'd been carrying, that this child might be left with no one. Hearing that there was someone who already loved him enough to step up broke something open in me. We did the second DNA test yesterday. Everyone was there. My family, my in-laws, my wife's best friend, who initially told me the truth. It was quiet, respectful, and weirdly peaceful. The test was done without drama, just a lot of unspoken pain. The results should be back in about a week. I'm relieved, to be honest. Not because of the results, whatever they turn out to be, but because everything is finally out in the open. No more secrets, no more what-ifs circling in my mind at 2 a.m. Everyone involved has been more understanding than I expected. There were no screaming matches, no blame games, just grief, and a shared sense of responsibility to do what's best for the child. I've also consulted with a lawyer, and he confirmed that if the second test comes back the same, removing my name from the birth certificate is a straightforward process, especially with the consent of both families. We'd likely have to go through a court order, but it's not complicated. I want to be clear about something. I don't hate this child. I don't even feel angry at him. He's completely innocent in all of this. He didn't choose how he came into this world, and he doesn't deserve to be punished or abandoned. But I also have to be honest with myself about what I'm capable of. Right now, I'm grieving not just the loss of my wife, but the loss of the family I thought we had. Every time I look at him, I see her. And now, I also see the betrayal. I know that with time, I might be able to separate those things, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to be the father he deserves. For those who kindly offered to adopt him, I'm deeply touched, truly. But it looks like there will be no need. If the test confirms he's not mine, my sister-in-law and her husband will likely move forward with the adoption. Until then, I'm still caring for him. I feed him, bathe him, hold him when he cries. I'm not heartless, and I won't leave him without a roof over his head. But I'm also no longer pretending this is something it's not. To those accusing me of karma farming or storytelling, believe what you want. I've got nothing to prove. I'm living through the worst months of my life, and the internet is the only place I felt like I could vent and think out loud without falling apart. Once this chapter closes, I'll be deleting this account. This isn't a story I want to keep reliving. And lastly, English isn't my first language. I've been using GPT to help shape my thoughts more clearly and make sure I'm expressing myself the way I want to. If that bothers you, that's fine. But I needed a tool to help put the pain into words. And that's exactly what it did. I'll update again when the second test results come in. Until then, thank you again. Whether you offered encouragement, criticism, or just a listening ear, it helped more than you know. Final update. The second DNA test results came back 2 days ago. As expected, they confirmed what I already knew deep down. I am not the father. Seeing it in writing a second time didn't make it any easier, but at least there's no more room for doubt. The uncertainty, the false hope, the denial, it's all over now. By the time the results arrived, I had already packed up most of the baby's things. Clothes, bottles, diapers, toys. It felt surreal boxing everything up. Each item had its own memory attached. A onesie I picked out because it reminded me of my favorite cartoon as a kid. A stuffed animal I bought during a random grocery run just because I thought it was cute. I folded everything neatly, trying not to think too much about it. My mom stayed with me that week. Thank God. I don't think I could have handled it alone. She helped with the baby, cooked meals, and reminded me to sleep. Mostly, she was just there, and that presence meant everything. This morning, my late wife's family, her parents, sister, and brother-in-law, came over to pick the baby up. I'd been dreading the moment, but surprisingly, it was calm. There were no shouting matches, no accusations, just quiet, heavy air and a sense that something final was happening. The handover was smooth, but not without a sting. As my wife's sister held the baby and turned to leave, she looked at me and said, "Didn't think you'd be this eager to give him away." I said nothing. I just stared at the floor. I knew there was no point in arguing, no point in defending myself. She'll believe whatever she wants. Still, her words cut deep. I've cried over that baby more than I care to admit. I changed his diapers at 3 a.m., sang to him when he was colicky, memorized every little sound he made. Letting go wasn't easy, it still isn't. But I had to. Raising him after everything would have been like living inside someone else's lie. Her parents, though, were kind, grieving, but kind. They hugged me, thanked me for being honest, and for taking care of him until now. Before leaving, they told me they thought going no contact was for the best. Too many raw emotions, too many wounds on all sides. I agreed. It was a hard decision, but I think they're right. It's painful? Yes, but clean. Like cauterizing a wound. I hugged them tightly. I'll miss them more than I expected. They were like second parents to me for years. Now the house feels empty. Quiet in a way that's not peaceful, just still. My mom went back home this afternoon, but she'll return tomorrow to stay with me for the rest of the week, just until I find my footing again. I'm not ashamed to admit I need the company. I've never felt this kind of silence before. And yet, oddly enough, I'm relieved. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe, like I'm allowed to stop bracing for the next blow. This whole ordeal has worn me down in ways I'm only just beginning to understand, but I also feel like I've crossed some kind of threshold. I'm not the same person I was when all of this started, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. As for my wife's belongings, I gave her jewelry to her parents. They didn't want anything else, just a few photos, some keepsakes. They told me I could sell or donate the rest. I haven't touched her closet yet. Some days I walk past it and pretend it's not there. Other days I open the door and just stand there, staring. I'll deal with it soon, one box at a time. I didn't reply to most comments on my last post because honestly, I was overwhelmed. The hate I received was unlike anything I'd expected. My DMs were full of strangers calling me heartless, selfish, unmanly, for choosing not to raise a child who wasn't mine, conceived during an affair I didn't even know about. I get that it's a sensitive topic, and people are entitled to their opinions. But unless you've stood in my shoes, watched your world unravel in real time, it's impossible to fully understand. To those who supported me, thank you, truly. Your messages helped me see that I wasn't crazy or cruel, that I had a right to choose what my life would look like after betrayal. And to those who criticized me, even harshly, I still appreciate the perspective. Some of you made points that forced me to pause and think. That's not nothing. As for the future, I'm not rushing into anything. No dating, no big decisions. I just want to get back to myself. I'm thinking of buying a new bike and riding again, something I used to love before life got so complicated. Maybe I'll rejoin the gym, get back into shape, relearn what it feels like to move without feeling weighed down by grief and guilt. I don't know what the next chapter looks like yet, but I'm finally ready to start writing it. I'll keep this account up for another week, maybe just to reflect a little longer. After that, I'll delete it. I need to close this door for good. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to comment, encourage, criticize, or even just listen. This has been the hardest experience of my life, but I think I'm finally ready to heal. This situation has been anything but simple. What do you think? Did OP make the right choice, or would you have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this make you think, feel, or even challenge your own beliefs, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's more real talk and deep stories coming your way.